Are you a person who is successful or wants to be? The King of Pentacles can help get you there. Stay tuned to learn how the King of Pentacles made it to the top and what this card can teach you about achieving success. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we are learning the tarot deck one card at a time. Today's card is the King of Pentacles. Most people find the court cards to be the most challenging part of the tarot deck, and I will do my best to demystify it here. I will be using the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. You'll find a link to the deck below, as well as to the many books that I used in my research. So let's get started. In simplistic terms, the king is the father figure of the royal court. He's married to the queen and they have 2 children. The page represents their youngest child, and the knight is their frat boy's son who is off at college, finding his way in the world and trying not to get into too much trouble. In the Middle Ages in Europe, kings came to power through conquest, election, inheritance, or some other type of agreement. They ruled people and territories within defined borders. The king was the official leader. He had the ultimate authority and the final word. He had great power due to his position, and everybody knew it. Kings generally grew up knowing that this was their future, and so did the people in their kingdom, so they were very much groomed for the position. In tarot, the kings are considered to be wise, mature, stable, and have lots of masculine energy. I think the best example of a king is King Charles III in England. As a prince, Charles grew up knowing that he would be king once his mother passed away. She passed away in 2022 at the age of 96, and he'd waited his entire 73 years to be king. Next in line to the throne is his son Prince William, followed by William's oldest child, Prince George. I found an interesting article in Harper's Bazaar from 2017 titled, "How Prince William is Training to Become King." You can find a link in the description box, and it is a great example of how kings are prepared to rule. At the time of the article, William was 35 years old, and the article describes how he started training at a young age under the guidance of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. As a teenager, Queen Elizabeth would host William at Windsor Castle, where they would open the state boxes and she would guide him through the papers. This taught him about the Constitution. In 2009, when William was 27, he underwent an intensive 2-year training program to help him learn about the country. This included working with different departments in the British governments, private lessons from constitutional experts, and briefings with high-profile people such as the Prime Minister. As he's gotten older, Prince William has done a lot of charity work. In 2017, he spearheaded a mental health campaign called Heads Together, which put together a coalition of 8 mental health charity partners to change the conversation on mental health. Their goals included tackling stigma, raising awareness, and providing help for people with mental health problems. Another one of his projects, which started in June 2023, is called Homewards, which is a 5-year, locally led program that hopes to end homelessness. I hope this helps you to understand the kings. They are educated, mature, and prepared from close to birth to lead and to rule. One of the reasons that the court cards are challenging is that they can represent 3 things. The first is a person. Kings were considered to be mature men over the age of 40. Depending on your age, a king could represent your father, grandfather, adult son, romantic partner, boss, or any other mature man in your life. The second thing a king can represent is a part of yourself that has a masculine, take-charge energy. You're the first to volunteer and have no issue taking responsibility or telling people what to do. And the third thing a court card can represent is a situation that requires you to be a leader. For instance, you can't figure out why you're struggling to get things done at work, and a king card can indicate that it's time for you to stop hiding in your cubicle and take on a leadership role. So how do you know whether this king represents a real person, a part of yourself, or a situation that requires a new approach? First of all, go by the question. If it isn't clear, look at the surrounding cards and its position in a spread. Here's 2 other things to keep in mind when we discuss the court cards. First of all, don't give much credence to ages, gender, or physical characteristics. For instance, a king is traditionally considered to be a man over the age of 40. Does that mean that he doesn't represent your wife because she's 30 years old and female? No, it does not. Secondly, and more important, look at the energy from this card. Your level of maturity is not based on your age, and it can vary greatly in different areas of your life. We all know super mature people in their teens and very immature people in their 80s. You can also be mature in one area of your life, such as relationships, and totally reckless in another area, such as your finances. One of the easiest ways to understand the personality of each king is to understand the chart on the screen. Each member of the court card's personality is related to 2 elements. Here's a quick reminder of what each element means. Pentacles are connected to the element of earth. It's all about things in the material world, such as our bodies, homes, nature, or how we earn our living. These people are very stable. They work hard and enjoy traditions. Wands is connected to the element of fire. These people tend to be feisty, confident, enthusiastic, adventurous, extroverted, passionate, flashy, and high energy. These people make good athletes and good salespeople. Cups are connected to the element of water. This card is all about emotions. Cups people are gentle, loving, sensitive, nurturing, and feel things deeply. These people make good healers and social workers. Swords is connected to the element of air. Swords is all about communicating and expressing ourselves. This includes our thoughts about ourselves as well as our thoughts about the world around us. This encompasses intelligence, knowledge, truth, mental clarity, and our sense of right and wrong. These people make good lawyers and writers. Each of the court cards is made up of 2 elements. The first element is related to their rank. On the column down the left, you can see that all pages are related to earth, all knights are related to fire, all queens are related to water, and all kings are related to air. Each member of the court card also has a suit, and along the top of the chart you can see the 4 suits. Pentacles are related to earth, wands are related to fire, cups are related to water, and swords are related to air. As you can see from this chart, the King of Pentacles is a combination of the elements of air and earth. The rank of all the kings connects to air, which makes sense because kings are considered to be the wise, logical, intellectual communicators of the tarot court. The King of Pentacles is also connected to the element of earth, so he is literally down to earth and practical. He's not going to live in his head and come up with ideas as a mental exercise. He is looking for practical things that he can implement for the benefit of himself and those around him. The King of Pentacles blends logic and quick thinking with a calm demeanor and down-to-earth practicality. In the King of Pentacles, we see a king wearing a gold crown. Near the top of the crown, we see 3 red flowers surrounded by 5 golden dots. Between the red flowers are 2 gold flowers, and the bottom of his crown is a victory wreath. Under the crown is a red cap and cowl. His elaborate cloak is covered with images of grapes and grape leaves. It has a decorative orange trim around his shoulders. We can see armor on his left foot. He is sitting on a black throne in the middle of a lush garden. There are 2 bull heads on the backrest and a bull's head on each armrest. He has a scepter in his right hand and a pentacle in his left hand. There is a stone wall behind him. We see a castle to the right of the card, and the sky is yellow. When the King of Pentacles appears in a reading, it can represent someone you know or a part of yourself who is good with money, values family, and enjoys the finer things in life. It can represent a mature leader who is successful because they are patient, work hard, pay attention to detail, don't take shortcuts, and are willing to play the long game. The King of Pentacles can be a message that you are on the path to success, or that it is time for you to take care of your health, finances, or family, and make decisions based on your long-term interest. Let's talk about the symbolism of the King of Pentacles. This is a very cluttered card, and there is a lot to see. He is wearing a gold crown. I'm going to quote Pam Richards and her description of the crown from her book Understanding Tarot. Quote, "The victory wreath shows his success is felt mentally. He brings this success to all he touches. The 3 red flowers on the crown show that his desire to create is still present and grounded, and added to by the 5 golden dots around each. These represent the 5 points of a pentagram, showing his magically creative mind is building on a physical level. The crown has either 2 fleur-de-lis or 2 lilies. Fleur-de-lis symbolize loyalty, power, faith, and honor, and lilies would show devotion. Being gold, these attributes would be relevant to the physical, practical side of life, showing someone who is in control of what they create." Unquote. He is wearing a red cap of maintenance and a red cowl. The cap of maintenance was worn by rulers to keep their crown secure and comfortable on their head. The red color indicates that he is passionate about his thoughts. His elaborate cloak is covered with images of grapes and grape leaves. As we learned previously, growing grapes is neither fast nor easy. It can take 3 to 4 years for a grapevine to bear fruit. During that time, they need to be pruned regularly, and then the grapes must be harvested with care. When the grapes are ripe, it indicates that you've done a lot of work and are now reaping the rewards. The King of Pentacles is known to enjoy working with his hands and also being hardworking, and this is demonstrated by the grapes on his cloak. We can see decorative trim around his shoulders. Orange is a blend of the passionate red and also the creativity and positivity of yellow. The trim indicates that he is a passionate, positive person. We can see armor on his left foot, so he is clearly ready for battle if it occurs. Pam Richards says that his foot sits on an ornamental hog, which is a symbol of greed, and that resting his foot on it shows control over his earthly desire and the fact that he has controlled his greed and earthly desires. On the screen, you can see an enlarged picture of his foot. He is sitting on a black throne with 2 bull heads on the backrest and a bull's head on each armrest. Bulls can represent fertility, good health, hard work, tenacity, and stubbornness. The fact that there are 4 bulls is significant. This is the number of the emperor in the major arcana, who is essentially the boss of the 4 kings. It can also represent the 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. The number 4 can also represent the stability of this king. I always remember this because tables are very stable and they have 4 legs. Because the bull is featured so prominently, I wanted to do some research and learn more about what bulls represent. This information is from an article titled "Bull Symbolism: What Does the Bull Represent?" by Matt Sullivan, and I've put a link in the description. In case you didn't know, and I admit I did not, a bull is a male cow who has not been castrated. A castrated male is called an ox, and we often use the terms bull and ox interchangeably. When compared to females, bulls have more muscle, thicker bones, larger feet, and generally horns to help make fighting for dominance easier. They are considered to be stronger, sturdier, and braver than females. Pictures of bulls have been found in cave paintings from 17,000 BCE. Many people associate bulls with the astrological sign Taurus, and that sounds like the King of Pentacles. People born under this sign are considered to be practical, stoic, and determined. They are also considered to be loyal and sensual. They love luxury and comfort and can be considered quite materialistic. On the downside, they can be stubborn and easily angered, which causes them to act without thinking. In Native America, the bull was considered to be an essential resource and was considered to represent stability and safety. It was also a spirit animal that appeared when a tribe needed help or guidance concerning carrying their burdens. Bulls also represented determination, which is why one of the most famous chiefs was called Sitting Bull. In the Chinese culture, the Emperor of Heaven felt sorry for the starving people, so he sent the oxen to earth to tell people that they would not starve if they worked hard. In Tibet, people believe that the bull relates to determination and perseverance, as well as strength, success, and wealth. It is interesting that bulls and grapes are also related. I'm going to share this story from Liz Dean in her book, The Ultimate Guide to Tarot. Quote, "Grapes and bull imagery also invite a comparison with the ancient legend of Ampelos, a young satyr loved by the Greek god of wine, Dionysus. Ampelos was savaged by a wild bull and died. Then Dionysus turned Ampelos' corpse into a grapevine and his blood into wine. On this card, vines grow plentifully around the bulls on the throne of the king and creep onto his robes in a pattern of leaves and red grapes, symbols of fruitfulness and success. From this, we deduce that the king plans carefully and expects results from his long-term investments." Unquote. He has a scepter in his right hand. This looks exactly like the scepter in card number 3, which is the Empress. To quote Johannes Feibig and Evelyn Berger in their book about the symbols of the Waite-Smith Tarot, this is the sign of Venus that combines a circle and a cross, which equates to the sun and earth and soul and body. This represents unity with the body and soul and the unification of sense and senses. He has a pentacle in his left hand. This represents abundance and his focus on the earthly realm, which is primarily money, but also includes your family, your health, and your home. His garden is lush and shows his prosperity and connection to the land. There is a stone wall behind him which represents protection. We see a castle to the right of the card. Castles can represent security and also wealth. Pam Richards suggests that the red roof shows his mind that is full of drive and desire for power, wealth, security, and growth, and the blue shows his trust in life. Finally, she points out that the roof has a flag that represents sincerity, honesty, perseverance, and freedom as he sits free from the insecurity of financial worries. It also lets people know that the king is at home and that his focus is on his family, surroundings, and environment. The sky is yellow. This is the color of the sun and shows that the king has a bright future. When the King of Pentacles appears in an upright position in a reading, it can represent a mature leader who is good with money, values family, and enjoys the finer things in life. It can represent someone who is successful because he is disciplined, ambitious, and hardworking. It can represent someone who is very calm. He sticks to a routine and does not wait for inspiration before he gets to work. This is not someone prone to drama, mood swings, or tantrums. It can describe a person who is very successful in business. The King of Pentacles is often said to have the Midas touch, which comes from a Greek myth about King Midas, who had the ability to turn everything he touched into gold. It can represent someone who has good ideas that have a practical implication. This is not a king who has pie-in-the-sky ideas. Like we saw with growing grapes, if the king decides to pursue something, he will work hard, pay attention to detail, and wait patiently until his idea comes to fruition. It can represent someone who has a strong work ethic. He is someone who is grounded, stable, and dependable. He prefers working with his hands to typing on a computer. He takes his responsibilities seriously and does what he says he's going to do. He is cautious and careful and appreciates structure. He works methodically, plays the long game, and doesn't take shortcuts or unnecessary risks. It can represent someone who takes care of things. In addition to being good at creating wealth, He is interested in long-term security. He makes decisions to make sure that he looks after his loved ones, his health, and his property. It can represent someone who enjoys the finer things in life because they make him happy. I don't see him as someone who buys a Ferrari just to impress the neighbors. I see him putting his money into something more practical, like an SUV to make his trips to the office more comfortable, or maybe even a top-of-the-line tractor to help harvest grapes. It can represent someone who is willing to share his wealth. He takes care of his family, is generous with his employees, and may also be a benefactor or a philanthropist. Finally, the King of Pentacles can be a message that you are on the path to success, or a message that it's time for you to take care of your health, finances, or family, and make decisions that are in your long-term interest. Here's an example of the upright King of Pentacles, and it is about the performer Cher. Cher is an American singer who was born in 1946 and, as I'm making this video in 2024, is now 78 years old. She is known as the goddess of pop and has had an incredibly successful entertainment career. Yes, she is female, and we're talking about a king. So please keep in mind that the king represents a masculine, take-charge energy, and it can include males and females. Cher became famous in 1965 as half of the husband-wife duo of Sonny and Cher. I got to know her from her TV show called The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, which was a variety show that started in 1971 and ran for 3 years. At that point, I wasn't yet a teenager, and it was a wonderful, family-friendly show. My parents and siblings and I were among the 30 million viewers every week. Cher came from very modest beginnings. She was born in California. Her father had drug and gambling problems, and her parents divorced when she was 10 months old. Her paternal grandparents were Armenian genocide survivors. Her mother remarried and divorced several times and moved her and her half-sister back and forth across the United States. They had little money, and at one point Cher used rubber bands to hold her shoes together. In 1961, her mother married a bank manager who adopted Cher and her sister and enrolled them in an expensive private school in Encino, California, where she struggled to fit in with her wealthy classmates. There she performed songs for her fellow students during her lunch hour. She dropped out of school at 16 and moved to Los Angeles, where she tried to break into show business. She met Sonny Bono in 1962 when he was working for a record producer. Bono needed a housekeeper, and Cher took the job. Cher worked as a backup singer and struggled to get radio stations to play her songs because, due to her deep contralto voice, they believed that she was a homosexual man. Cher went on to have an amazing career as a singer and actress, and she is still performing at almost 80 years old. I'm not going to give you any more information here, but you can read more about her in the Wikipedia article in the description box. So let me explain how Cher relates to the King of Pentacles. First of all, fashion. She is known for her over-the-top costumes, and I think that the King of Pentacles would appreciate them. Secondly, and more important, she is an amazing philanthropist. Since 1990, she has worked with the Children's Craniofacial Association, whose mission is to give hope to facially disfigured children and their families. She works with Keep a Child Alive, an organization that combats AIDS and provides antiviral medicine to children and their families with HIV/AIDS. In 2007, she became the primary supporter of a school in Kenya, which provides food, medical care, and education to more than 300 orphans and vulnerable children between the ages of 2 and 13. She has been a vocal supporter of American soldiers and returning veterans, and she has helped with environmental causes, worked to protect elder rights, and supported animal and LGBTQ rights. In my opinion, Cher embodies many of the characteristics of the King of Pentacles. She is a trailblazer in her industry, which was very unusual for a woman in the 1960s. She has had a long and successful career, is an amazing businesswoman, and somebody who generously volunteers her time and resources to important causes. When the King of Pentacles appears in a reverse position, it can represent someone who overspends, wastes money, or goes into debt. They are not a good steward of their resources. It can represent someone who is greedy. As a result, they make poor decisions such as taking excessive risks or shortcuts. It can represent someone who is untrustworthy, dishonest, or corrupt. It can represent someone who is impatient or controlling. It can represent someone who chooses wealth over people. As a result, he doesn't treat employees kindly or spends so much time working that he ignores his family. It can represent someone who is moody, quick to anger, or emotionally unstable. It can represent someone who is stingy, miserly, or hoards their money. And finally, it can represent someone who is so focused on material wealth that they ignore their own health or their family. Here's an example of the reversed King of Pentacles, and it is about a real-life miser who definitely chose money over his family. His name is Wellington R. Burt, and he was a lumber baron who was also involved in iron mining, railroads, salt mines, and finances. He is a former mayor of East Saginaw, Michigan, and a former Michigan state senator. He was married twice and had 7 children. He died in 1919 at the age of 87 in Saginaw, Michigan. At the time of his death, he was one of the 8 richest men in America. He was also completely estranged from his friends and family. He lived alone in a mansion with only his servants. He was nicknamed the Lone Pine of Michigan. When he died, his wealth was estimated at between $40 and $90 million, which would be equivalent to between $700 million and almost $1.6 billion in 2023. All he left was a $30,000 annual payment to his favorite son. His remaining 6 children were left with somewhere between $1,000 to $5,000 per year, which is the same amount that he left his secretary, housekeeper, chauffeur, and cook. But here's the strange part. His will contained a spite clause to avenge a family feud. The will stipulated that he did not want any money from his estate to be distributed until 21 years after the death of his last surviving grandchild. His final grandchild died in 1989, at which point his estate was valued at over $100 million. At that point, his 12 remaining descendants were able to split his estate. You'll find some links in the description box if you'd like to learn more. Here are some questions to help you connect with the King of Pentacles. Number 1, have you ever put earning money ahead of your relationships? Or have you experienced someone who thought earning money was more important than spending time with you? Number 2, do you believe that discipline and hard work are required for success? If not, what do you think is necessary? Number 3, how do you view possessions? Do you want to impress people? Do they contribute to your happiness? Number 4, do you take the long-term view or are you open to shortcuts? Number 5, do you share your wealth or keep it for yourself? And finally, number 6, have you ever used money to control people? I hope this video has helped you connect with the King of Pentacles. If it has, I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel.